with paper and pencil, and you begin to understand how to use these tools, you will have taken a giant step forward to being a powerful, independent human being.
Hey everybody, this is Brett, and welcome to Hour 2 of School Sucks Live. Osborne in the studio here with me. How you doing?
I'm doing well still.
Yeah, and on the phone, Laurette Lynn. And can you hear us okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Do you have me?
Yep, we're still going, at least on UStream. We might have some technical difficulties, but we're still doing a show.
Okay.
So, where did we leave off? The guy who keeps track of where we left off is off tonight.
We were talking about drugs.
We were talking about drugs.
And you said when we come back, we're going to talk about a different kind of health.
That was 2 segments ago, sir.
Was it?
Yeah.
Maybe I checked out.
Yes,
I was
and then
waiting
I
for the
monopolized
restroom
it. I
break.
apologize, Brett. 10%. I just want to mention real quick to anybody that does want to get 10% off on the book. The coupon code is SSP for School Sucks Podcast, and it's available at my website. So you need to use the SSP coupon code for the 10% off.
And you're using the website laurettelynn.com now, right?
laurettelynn.com. Yeah. When we do a show, there'll be a website for the show, but everything's going to be announced in January, and you can just subscribe to laurettelynn.com. You'll get all the news that you need to get on there.
All right. Excellent. What we were talking about is who benefits, right? The age-old question that is so important. And there are a lot of beneficiaries of what really has become, to quote from the movie, a war on kids, because it's such an easy war to wage. Kids are basically politically defenseless, in many cases physically defenseless in the way that the school is set up, legally defenseless. In most of these relationships, they're defenseless. So kids have become, really in the last 20 years, and I want to credit the work of Mike Males, who's done a lot of great writing on this subject, long before the movie The War on Kids, what was his name? Kevin Solig put out a couple years ago. Obviously, we have the schools that benefit, and the teachers' unions, and that bureaucracy. And really, it seems like a lot of the things that the unions do are actually about, exploiting the capture of these children, trying to make the school day longer. They're talking in some places now about extending or making public kindergarten, which would make it mandatory, and even like an after year. So moving school to 14 years, the longer days. They're, of course, huge beneficiaries in institutions. I was on a podcast last night. We were talking about the institutionalization of children from 1980 to the year 2000 increased by almost 400%. Obviously, the drugs, something that we've covered on this show, and we've covered several times in the past, and all of the adults who don't have to do self-examination, who can just push this on the kids. And they try to have these balanced debates about, well, what are liberals saying the problem is, and what do conservatives say the problems are? Let's get both sides of the story. But one side that is never heard from is the kids.
Yeah,
So-
and you know what, Brett? This whole illusion of political paradigm is also perpetuated by the same school system, because children are taught from a very early age, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican. So the problems that we're suffering from as a society, socially and politically, all stem from the conditioning that's happening and the programming that's happening to the children. So you have the purposeful programming. And like you were saying before, when you talk about the money, this is really a vicious circle. This is a laundering pit that is happening, supporting the teachers' unions, and the teachers' unions perpetuating the cycle, and then the cycle supporting the teachers' unions, and so far and so forth. And we're using this to justify taxes that we're forcibly collecting from people. And I say the word forcibly collecting instead of stealing, which is what it really is. So everybody's paying for taxes, including home educating families. We're supposed to be paying taxes also to the schools. And what we're really supporting is not the education of the children, but the establishment and perpetuation of the teachers unions, who also are not really supporting the education of the children. And I get a lot of trouble when I say that. Teachers don't like to hear that, because a lot of them will say, well, hey, I got into teaching because I love kids. You know what? Maybe that's the reason that a lot of teachers get into teaching. But the teachers that don't end up going to the dark side, they have their hands tied, and they really can't help the kids get an education either. And I've had a lot of teachers on my show that have said the same thing. And you were a teacher yourself, Brett. There's only so much you can do. The system actually is not productive or not conducive to an education. So really, it's just unhealthy for children. It's unhealthy for society. It's unhealthy for the political climate. Everything just really goes back to the kids and how they're parented. The fact that we're so dependent and we're not independent, and that we keep passing blame. And we talked with Stefan about the Obama phone, and you know, it's not only that lady; it's a whole epidemic that's going on. It's the Obama phone kind of nation or epidemic that's happening. Is everybody wants something for nothing? Everybody thinks that they're entitled to something. Nobody wants to take responsibility. And again, I'm using these words loosely. I don't mean every individual is like this, because clearly there are those of us that are saying, hey, we need to do something here. But I think the fact that it's so prominent and so infused into our culture today really does go back to a problem with how our children are growing up.
Sure. And just in case anybody doesn't know what the Obama phone is, that is a phone on Commissioner Gordon's desk that calls Obama when there's a problem in Gotham. No, can you just define that for us so people know what you're talking about and why that's significant here?
There was a video on YouTube. I was introduced to it last week, but it might have been floating around for even longer than that. And it was a woman in Cleveland that was standing outside, you know, holding up an Obama sign in traffic. And she had a group of people with her, but somebody with a camera was interviewing her. And I don't even know who it was that was interviewing her. I just saw the video on YouTube and saying, what are you doing? What are you out here? And she was just using this like really kind of uneducated vernacular and really street language and saying, I'll do the best I can to imitate it, but we got to keep Obama in president.
I got it right here.
Saying, well, you know what? Yeah, go ahead and play it.
46 seconds.
Yeah.
Obama.
You got Obama phone?
Yes, everybody in Cleveland, low minority, got Obama phone. Keep Obama in president, you know. He gave us a phone.
He gave you a phone?
Do more.
How did he give you a phone?
You sign up if you on food stamps, you on Social Security, you got low income, you disability.
Hey, I have a question. Okay, what's wrong with Romney again?
Romney, he sucks. Hey.
Okay, so yeah, that's tough.
It was disturbing to me because it was a microcosm of what is going on in our culture and how the voting process is working for us. And basically, this woman is concerned that Romney might take away her free Obama phone, and she wants to support Obama because he's giving away free stuff. So we have to support that. We have to perpetuate that and keep that going. And I don't know that it's particularly her fault or her upbringing or the environment but what created that environment? What is going on in this society? We can't just look at the problem for what it is and say, well, this lady's crazy. What is going on that's producing millions of people this way?
And it wasn't
what
even
is happening?
It wasn't even any different for the other side, because I don't know if the Obama phone is a real thing or just a myth, but
no, there are Obama phones, and if you have a cell phone, it's in your cellular bill. You're getting charged for it,
right? Interesting. Oh yeah. You talked about so it's driving up the cost for everybody.
Right. It's not free.
Yeah. But on the other side of that argument, when the conservatives who are really making hay with Obama phone lady, what are they saying? They say we need Romney to be elected to save us, to save the country from Obama.
Exactly.
So save us, Mitt Romney. Yeah, that's so ubiquitous, that way of thinking. This is School Sucks Live. We're going to take a quick break and try to sort out a giant technical mess that we're having here, per usual. Give us a call, 843-JOIN-SSP. We'll bring you into the conversation. We'll be right back.
MineThings.com is a fun online game that pits you against people around the world to mine for scarce resources. Do business in a capitalist economy with virtually mined gold, tax-free. You could be a trader doing business between cities, a pirate lying in wait for hapless traders, a guard capturing pirates, or one of 9 other professions. It doesn't require a big-time commitment. Your mining robots work whether you're logged in or not. It costs nothing to play, but you can buy bonuses. They even accept bitcoins. Go to MineThings.com. Use coupon code FTL. Double your mining speed. It's free. MineThings.com.
It's the Onion Radio News. Starbucks begins its sinister Phase 2 of operation. This is Doyle Redland reporting. After a decade of aggressive expansion throughout North America and abroad, Starbucks suddenly and unexpectedly closed its 56,423 worldwide locations today to prepare for what insiders call Phase 2 of the company's long-range plan. Cynthia Valcant, Starbucks head of marketing, made this brief statement at a press conference earlier today.
We have enjoyed furnishing you with coffee-related beverages and are excited about the important role you play in our future plans.
Existing Starbucks franchises across the nation have been shuttered with high-strength titanium, and the well-known Starbucks logo has been slightly altered to present the familiar mermaid figure as a cyclopean mermaid whose all-seeing eye forms the apex of a world-spanning pyramid. Doyle Redland for the Onion Radio News, online at theonion.com.
Did you know that you can listen to LRN.FM 24/7 via our free-to-air satellite channel? From Mexico to Canada, our signal covers nearly all of North America. All you need is a view of the southern sky, an affordable receiver, and a dish as small as 30 inches. There are no monthly fees. Learn more at sat.lrn.fm. Plus, if you're a broadcaster or want to be one, this is a good delivery method for our content. See our coverage map and get details at sat.lrn.fm. That's sat.lrn.fm.
On Free Talk Live, we talk about investing in gold and silver as a hedge against inflation, investment, and barter currency. We've teamed up with Midas Resources to offer you some great rates on some hand-picked gold and silver pieces. U.S. Eagles, British Sovereigns, 20 francs, Lakota Nation silver rounds, Montana silver reserves, and Walking Liberty halves. Call 877-857-9938 or go to gold.freetalklive.com. The shipping is the same for 1 as it is for 20, so try to get as many as you can all at once. Gold.freetalklive.com.
Now that you've found the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM, you may want to help expose others to our great programs. To assist you in doing so, you'll find resources at promote.lrn.fm, including details on how to get a free bumper sticker, quarter-page flyers you can print out and distribute, banners for your website, as well as files that will allow you to make your own custom banners and graphics. Visit
Laurette, we're coming back in a minute.
promote.lrn.fm and help bring new listeners to the Liberty Radio Network. That's promote.lrn.fm.
What if the key to achieving liberty in your lifetime was to move together with others?
Okay, we're not coming back. We're simulcasting here between radio and video, and it's a lot of variables.
What's the problem?
The radio end is not picking us up, so only the video. But you know, these are things that happen. So,
but you have I know that we have audio. I have couple of people listening that are telling me that they're getting it, so we're okay.
Yeah,
so it's just like the broadcast radio that's not picking it up.
People in my chat said it sounds fine. So
okay.
Someone says, "Aw, poor Brett, that sucks." Well, that's What were we talking about at the end of the last segment? Where did we leave off? What were we talking about 2 segments ago?
Yeah.
We went into the whole entitlement and political paradigm, but if you want to skip over to solutions or end it on an up note, we can do that. Just go and I'll follow you. Hey
everybody, welcome back to School Sucks Live. This is Brett on the show with me tonight here in our studio in Manchester. Beautiful studio is Osborne. How you doing?
I'm still okay.
Great.
Turns out.
And Laurette is sticking with us for the entire show. Thanks for doing it, Laurette.
Sure.
We have been talking about her book, Don't Do Drugs, Stay Out of School. And at the last segment, we were talking about not necessarily the entitlement society, but the kind of dependence and more, I would say, Osborne, more the authority worship kind of
There's a lot of that, yeah.
Yeah. And we felt very lonely. I know I did on Tuesday, and I think you guys echoed the same sentiments about everything we saw through this election, where, sure, some people expect Obama as a savior, but others expected Matt Romney. Is that his name?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
This is a philosophical question, one that I went over a little bit. I went into some detail with Stefan, but it's something that has been plaguing my mind recently. When you mentioned people either expected Obama to give them free stuff, or on the other side, they expected Romney to save us from the other side. And like you said, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. We're having the same problem either way. But then we talk about this, and you were a history teacher, am I right?
Yep.
Okay, so you are a student yourself of history, and you've studied history. All throughout history, it seems that this has plagued societies over and over again. And from an anthropological standpoint, I'm wondering if it's simply human nature. Maybe folks like you and I and other folks that feel the same way we do, and we talk about, personal independence and personal responsibility and personal liberty, and even like sliding over into the realm of anarchy like Stefan talks about. Are we actually the minority? And is that natural? Is that just the way humanity is, that there is just a minority of people that can survive like that, or that even desire to survive like that? Are we not unlike other mammals insofar as we desire a structure in our society? And even if it means that we're at the bottom of that structure, as long as we know where our place is, we feel safe. And again, I'm using the pronoun we, but I don't actually mean you and me. I think people like us, maybe we truly are the minority. Maybe it is human nature to want to be saved. And they call thousands of years ago in Rome, Caesar, save us. Caesar, do it for us. Were they conditioned to feel that way, or is it just human nature? Because it seems that that's what people do. They get together, they pick a leader, and they say, save us. So are we fighting a losing battle? I mean, or are we ready to evolve as a culture? Is that why there's so many of us that are starting to break out and say, I don't want to live this way anymore? And liberty is becoming a cliche statement, but a very important idea.
Yeah, I mean, I question human beings having a predictable nature, and certainly plenty of money and resources and minds have been poured into the process of making human beings more predictable. But when you consider the human capacity for reason, the understanding of morality and making choices and free will, it's very hard. I mean, like sharks have nature, and if you go back 6,000 years, sharks are pretty much doing the same thing that they're doing today. And I think we've seen a lot of moral and philosophical evolution in our society, even though we're dragging all of these antiquated systems of mystical thinking and authority along with us. I think these types of what you're describing, people who might think like us or do like us, I think we're more visible today because of the technology that's at our fingertips. And throughout most of history, people who thought like this suffered in silence, because they lived in a village. They never moved more than 15 miles away from the spot they were born. They were shamed. They were threatened with excommunication if it was a religious thing. So, I mean, I think that the human mind does desire predictability. Certainly children do. They desire structure. They benefit from structure. We benefit from order. Our minds are natural tools that want to remove contradictions and remove chaos from our thinking process. We want to make sense of the world around us. But I think we've also been subjected to easy answers in that respect. Whoever had the biggest rock, or whoever had the biggest sword, or the biggest gun, or the biggest nuke, or they were the ones who were in charge of making that order. And when you use the word anarchy, talking about, Stefan Molyneux and Free Domain Radio, we have lived in thousands of years in complete philosophical anarchy, I would say. And there's been glimmers of hope, in ancient Greece and in the Enlightenment and, with objectivism. But I've said this so many times recently, we live today in this irrational philosophy of German idealism where our minds are not trustworthy tools to make sense out of the world, so we must defer. It is our duty to defer to authorities. So, yeah, I think people do want structure, but it seems like we've always accepted this BS definition of what it needs to be, some kind of, magical authority or the authority of the state. There's nothing wrong with structure. There's nothing wrong with order. There's nothing wrong with governance. But Osborne, that was one of the videos that you worked on, right? Putting the non-aggression principle at the center of society. The video was, It starts with the Ptolemaic system, right?
That's right.
And the analogy is that for so long, they believed that the Earth was the center of the solar system, right? Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of religious stuff at stake here. The church needed to believe that, part of the whole creation story was that the Earth was put at the center of everything, right? Because, we were the same clowns for thousands of years who thought that the universe was created so we would have a place to live. So that fit that story. And all of these astronomers had to continually come up with more complex justifications and mathematical models to keep showing this. It's like Keynesian economics. Osborne, you're an economist, right? Sure. So they have to, they have the math, they have the models to try and keep justifying this irrational system. And it was the same way with astronomy. So when something concrete, philosophical, was put at the center of society instead of authority, then we could have an order. We could have a governance instead of a government. I think that evolution could take place. But people need to recognize the hole that they're in before that can happen.
Well, it is taking place, and it will continue to take place, right? I mean, there's only a certain number of people who can deprogram themselves from the programming, right? But every single one of those people will replicate themselves through breeding and through just living a successful life that other people want to emulate.
Yeah.
Right.
So what you're saying is it has spread and it will continue to spread. And I'm seeing that too, which is why I say that there is hope.
Yeah, but when you ask whether we are ready to evolve right now, I think that's a little bit of a wrong way to look at it, because no, we're not going to evolve today or tomorrow or even in my lifetime. But.
Sure. We'll pick that up right there, because I think we can take this a little bit further. This is School Sucks Live. Still time for you to join us. 843-JOIN-SSP. We'll be right back.
Are you one of the 12% of Americans who still approve?
I don't know if we're on LRN or not. I don't know what's going on. Yeah,
no one cares.
So,
nobody knows.
Wait. Oh, that was you. I was like, who is that?
No, that was me. That was me. I'm still like dancing to OPP back there. So. I still know every single lyric to that song, and I don't know if I'm proud of that or not.
You should be very proud. Let's see.
Does that age me?
No, I remember that. Our chat died out. I wanted to see if... Does anyone in the chat have any thoughts that they want read on the show, which I will happily do from what we've discussed so far? Oh, wait, it just caught up. Other people's property, somebody says.
Laurette, how long has your book been out?
Well, that's a strange question to answer, actually, because it was released in the end of July. I took pre-orders before that. It was released in the end of July, and then I actually went on hiatus for almost the entire month of August because I was having some really serious personal issues that had to be dealt with. And then it was taken off because everything was on hiatus, and it was put back. It was re-released in September. So, but figure since July, it was released in July.
Are lots of people reading it?
Yeah, actually, the feedback has been really awesome so far. All of the feedback that I've gotten it was very constructive, but none of it's been negative. Even parts that people didn't necessarily agree with, they kind of mentioned that I don't know about this part, but I thought it was really great. Like Brett said, it's a really good introduction for people to kind of take this, read it. It's really easy to digest, and then they just move forward. So it's been selling actually much better than I anticipated, and I don't know how that speaks of my confidence in it, but it's been selling really well, and people are really digging it so far, so I feel good about that. It's cool. Have you read it?
I read it today, in fact.
Yeah. What'd you think?
I was very good.
Good.
Compact is good.
I was hoping to find something we could argue about, but unfortunately everything you wrote about is exactly the same things we talk about on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw School Sucks and Education Evolution, which is the tagline, like all within like 5 lines on one page. So that was good. Where is it? Maybe if I control find sucks.
But make sure you get $5 a month to AMP at amp.freetalk.
I don't mind being challenged, and I think it always goes really well because I learned something too when I'm challenged. That conversation that you and I, Brett, had with Dr. Professor Kunzman, was that his name? Kuzman? Do you remember? He was talking about regulation, how homeschoolers should be regulated, and kind of saying like, oh yeah, homeschooling is great, but we need to keep tabs on them. That was a great conversation.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest Liberty-oriented
I enjoyed that
content.
too. All right, we're coming back.
At LRN.FM.
My name is Jacob Hornberger.
No, we're not.
President of the Future Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having.
All right, Ian says try setting to the continuous transmission.
Write us at fff@fff.org.
Would you have voted for Ron Paul, Brett?
No, wouldn't vote. Not Ron Paul.
I think I'm about done with the whole process.
Yep.
Which is a little sad in the way, because it was fun, but I just can't do it anymore.
The thing that bothered me the most was seeing the people who stood in line for 3 hours to do it. I mean, it's one thing to just drive by and like take 2 minutes, but man.
Hey everybody, welcome back to School Sucks Live. We have got, what do we got? 2 segments left. That's about 20 minutes of time. That time can be filled with your calls, with your comments in the chat that I will read on this show. In fact, I'm checking right now, and no one has said anything yet. But it's a very active chat. It just seems like people want to have their own discussions.
I'm seeing some questions in the chat.
Oh, you are?
Yeah,
Maybe yours caught up. What do you got?
So, Sammy Polizzi wants to know, at what age did you start actively educating your children? I have a 3.5-year, and he's mostly still just learning through living, watching everything I do, and helping, etc.
Okay. When the children are young, when children are that young, they will absorb most of their understanding of the world on their own. They will look at the world. They're in a discovery stage right now. They're learning about the world. They're in what the trivium would relate to as a grammar stage. They're discovering what everything is. They're looking at it. They're using their 5 senses. They're touching it. They're feeling it. And they're learning. That is how it's going to go for a number of years. As far as actively educating them, that's really, it's kind of loosely defined. And I'm saying that because it's different for every family, it's different for every child, and it needs to be different for every child. So you kind of just pick up on the cues, and you see that your child is really just extra curious in numbers and building and engineering concepts, so mathematical concepts. So you start to introduce things slowly, and you count the number of Cheerios that they have. That to me is actively educating when you're talking about a 3 or 4-year-old, because you're introducing something actual numbers, actual mathematical skills. Now, there are families that really don't introduce that at all because they consider it coercion. I'm a little bit different. I come from a different philosophy, or I've developed different philosophy. I have a great deal of respect for an actual academic education because I think it's extremely important to the health of the human mind. I'm very into health. I think that we have a responsibility as parents to make sure that our children learn about physical health, learn how to keep themselves physically healthy, emotionally healthy, and intellectually healthy. Because in order to really understand freedom, in order for people to grow up and really understand what it means to be independent, what it means to take responsibility, what it means to love one another, what it means to be an active part of the community without being forced by the government to do so, you need to understand your world. You need to understand history. You need to understand how things work. And that is through intelligence. That is through fostering intelligence through active education. As they get older, they start to pursue that education on their own. And that's when they analyze things. Then they're in some kind of like logic and rhetoric phase where they're discovering, and then they're really analyzing, and then they're repeating it back, which is, what's considered to be rhetoric. And I'm saying this because this is the philosophy that I really go by, an education philosophy that's important to us. So when they're really young, as far as when to start, just follow their cues. You're reading a book with your child, and they're pointing to the words. Okay, they're curious about how to sound out this word. So take it a step further. Start teaching them the alphabet. Start letting them recognize A, B, C and putting the words together. If they're not really showing any signs of that, just wait. I would say, though, if they get to be 8 or 9 years old, it's time to start learning how to read. I don't really go for the whole, if they're 12 and they don't know how to read, it's no big deal. It kind of is a big deal in my book, but you have to kind of just follow your own child's cues. There's a flexibility there, and there's never violence. There's never any kind of force or anything like that. There's if you as a parent find that these things are important, your children will naturally go in that direction as well. I hope that answered the question. If not, then keep asking.
Yeah, certainly. People can post whatever they want in the chat. If you try to call and you don't get an answer, keep trying. We'll squeeze you in there. We missed one from a 480 number. But yeah, I think that the whole thing here is that a child is confident that their mind is a useful and practical tool. We were talking about this in a show recently called Breaking Free, which was based on a book by the same name by Nathaniel Branden. And, it's these questions that really ask people to go back and look at some of their childhood experiences. But the questions are so applicable to school, which is often, the reinforcement of bad parenting. Or I don't want to say bad parenting, but uninformed parenting, unenlightened parenting, not peaceful parenting. And the first question in the book is, did your parents' manner of behaving and dealing with you give you the impression that the world was rational, predictable, and intelligible, or a world that was bewildering, contradictory, incomprehensible, and unknowable? And I think when, the default understanding for a young person is that the adult world makes sense, authority is rational, even if they can't express it, right? But that's so often so far from the truth, as we see all the time. So unfortunately, a lot of kids grow up not feeling like their mind is trustworthy and that they're efficacious intellectually. We're going to take a call from 480. Hold on just one second, Laurette. Hello, who's this?
This is Heather.
Hi, Heather. Hold on one second.
All right, thanks.
Okay, Heather, you are on with Laurette.
Oh, wow. Laurette, I just had a question. My husband is the one that found all of you guys, and I really like what you guys are saying and what you guys are all about. But what about teaching children that, that they have to live in the real world and what is acceptable to society, and also, in our world?
I'm sorry, just repeat the last part. I heard the part about the real world, teaching children about the real world, but what was the last part of the question?
Yeah, but also in our world, in our world that we want to create within our home environment. Like, do you guys have any opinions on, we found a public homeschooling that does classes 2 days a week, and they focus more on art and PE and social interaction. And, it's the parent's job to do whatever it is, the 2 or 3 hours a week of education by their criteria, so to speak. And then I figured we could educate ourselves on what we wanted the rest of the time.
So you're basically, your question is how homeschoolers or how home educators teach the kids about the real world. Am I understanding your question correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, actually, I've gotten asked this question before, and it's an understandable question, and it's not that easy to answer because it demands another question. Okay. And the question is, how do we define the real world? What is our impression of the real world? And automatically, I think people assume that when we send our children to school for 15 years, we are preparing them for the real world. But let's really break that down. Is school the real world? And it's not. They're locked inside of a classroom. They're with the same 30 kids and one adult, and they're usually right around the same age. That doesn't really reflect the real world, so it doesn't really prepare them for it. What it does is prepare them for the processed world, to get out of the school. And that's what they're being trained for. They're being trained to sit in the classroom so that they could prepare to apply to a good college, so they could sit in a classroom for longer, so that they could get a job in an office, so they could sit in a cubicle. And the bigger office that they get and the nicer window that they get, it teaches them that this is an achievement. That, to me, is a replicated world that exists because of programming. But if we think about it, nobody's actually finding true personal happiness or freedom in that environment. So it's really not the real world. The real world is outside of the classroom, existing out there every single day. All we have to do as parents is take our children outside and let them be a part of real life. Let them be a part of our family, an active participant in our family. Let them go out and participate in real life and meet real people and make friends naturally, not under contrived circumstances or forced conditions, but just dealing with people on an everyday basis and meeting people and being friends with people. You mentioned that your local home education group has PE classes and art classes and things. Those are great ways to get out there and do things.
Yeah, because that's as I said, it's funded by the public school system.
Heather, hold on one second. Heather, hold on 1 second. We'll keep you on with us for one more segment. This is School Sucks Live. We will be back in a flash. We might have time for one more call. Okay, we can all still talk during the break. Heather, are you still there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Hi, Heather. I'm usually not a fan of things that are funded by the public school system because I'm very suspicious of why they're offering so many wonderful things to the home education community. In my community here, we take advantage of PE classes and art classes and things, but they're put out specifically by the home education community. There's no funding there.
Okay, yeah, because see, I've Googled and I've searched. I mean, my kids, they're not even 2 yet. I've Googled and I've searched, and I can't even find anything that's not religiously affiliated with anything. And I'm not anti any religion. I just don't necessarily want a structure based on a religion.
Of course,
you know?
I understand that. We choose secular home education choices too. Where are you? Just out of curiosity, what state?
Arizona.
Okay, all right. There should be some choices. I can look through my resources if you connect with me through my website, and I can send you some resources if I can find them. I can tell you that I'm in Oklahoma, which is about as red as they come as far as states, and it's not easy to find secular choices out there, but they're out there. They're everywhere.
Okay, that's good. We're just trying to prepare. I mean, I personally, I'm not the big supporter of this. My husband is, and we have this kind of a relationship where it's, I stay at home, and the way we make decisions is if it's really important for him, and not, I can't say anything against his choices. That's how we work, and if something's really important for me and his opinion is mild, we kind of go with it. So he wants to keep them at home with me, and that's great because I love spending my time with them, so I have no problem doing it for X amount of more years. But I'm just kind of like, we can't find anything that's not religious-based. We can't find anything that will even let us poke our head in now, to see if that it would fit our family. And also I'm kind of like, how, one of my bigger questions is, how do you have these children who haven't done things, and I understand that the normal way isn't the right way, but how do you, what's the end result when they're, when they're grown and questioning authority in a job where they can't question authority? It's kind of like you go in, you clock in, and that's it. That's the rules.
Well, Heather, what I think you need to take time to do is really examine what your objectives are.
Hold on one second, guys. We might be coming back on the radio.
Facebook profile at facebook.lrn.fm or follow us at Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm. It's all free, so sign up now at updates.lrn.fm for news updates delivered to your email box, facebook.lrn.fm to follow our Facebook page, and twitter.lrn.fm to receive our tweets.
Since time began.
Guy gets me every time. I'm sorry. Every time.
That's all right. Heather, I know that we don't have a lot of time, and but I applaud your question, and I want to let you know that it's a very normal and legitimate question. The more you look into this and the more you read about it, I think that these answers are going to start to come to you because you're going to start to change your perspective, and you're not going to have the same questions anymore. You're almost going to reject the premise of your own question. So what I'm going to encourage you to do, because we are short on time, or else I would love to spend more time talking to you, is go ahead and get the book, Don't Do Drugs, Stay Out of School, read through it. That is going to open up a lot of doors for you. And then you can go ahead. I'm going to suggest Linda Dobson to read some of her books, because that's an even better introduction into how to really incorporate education into your home and incorporate real-world experience without having to use the school system. So start with Don't Do Drugs, Stay Out of School, move on to Linda Dobson, and at some point you might want to check out John-Taylor-Gatto, but like Brett mentioned before, that's a little much to chew on at first. So
right. We're coming back. Heather, do you want to hang with us for some of this segment?
Sure.
Hey everybody, this is Brett. Welcome back to School Sucks Live. This is our last segment of the night, and we're gonna do. You and I will do more later, but this is our last segment.
I'm not done. I'm just getting warm.
I know. I can tell. Yeah. I can. You look very anxious.
Probably because of the music.
Yeah. Maybe we'll just rock out later in the studio. That would be fun.
Yeah.
Good audio quality in here for rocking. So we still have Laurette. And we also have Heather on the phone, and we chat a lot during the break, and that will all wind up in the podcast. But just for our radio listeners, Laurette and Heather, you were making some suggestions as far as a course of action, Laurette, and I just wanted you to have an opportunity to share that with everybody else.
Well, Heather had a legitimate question, and that's about the real world. And I have heard that question before. I actually have a video up on YouTube that answers that exact question. What about the real world and exposing kids to the real world? And what I first try to do is just remind people that the real world is out there. It's out there every day. It's part of the world that we live in. So as far as exposure and preparation, just live, just be, just exist. That is how to prepare for the real world. And I think Heather is also concerned with the child getting older, how they're going to get a job, how they're going to learn to respect authority. You will learn to respect authority when it's more genuine, when you're in a situation where you understand that a mutual respect is something that two human beings have for each other, that's not by force, and that's not under some kind of tyrannical idea. Respect for authority, respect for a boss that you work for, comes from a genuine respect for other human beings. And that comes from just living in a very real, very organic environment that is applicable to home-based learning and home-based education, because it becomes your entire lifestyle. And this is how your children are going to learn values and morals, because you're going to emulate that, and you're going to be a big part of their lives, and they will get to know you in ways that they won't get to know you if they're trapped inside of school for 15 years of their lives. In that environment, they will learn by force to obey authority. But in a more natural environment, they will learn just generally a mutual respect. And when you enter into a new situation, such as a job, that person has been there longer, and this is simply the way it works. However, they will also learn that if they are being abused in that situation, they don't have to tolerate it, and they can step out of it. And I'm going to piggyback that by saying that a lot of home-educated kids, once they reach adulthood and they get older, majority of them end up in work situations where they're working for themselves. And they're actually outside of a cubicle situation or an office situation, and they are making their own income and being responsible for themselves. And a lot of times that happens after a couple of years of being a protege for someone else. But they can have internships when they're 10, 11, 12 years old because they have their day free to do that. So life kind of happens sooner for them because we're not on any kind of time constraints. We don't have to wait until we're 18 to become adults. We can open up a business when we're 12 years old. My daughter was 9 and she had her own soap making business. So there's a lot that we can experience about the real world before we graduate from high school and get to taste the real world. It's just really altering your perspective and realizing it. I hope that helps. Like I said, we're short on time. We don't have a lot of time, but you kind of have to just go. You're just starting right now. Just keep going. Just keep learning.
Heather, anything else before we let you go?
Yeah, no, I'm good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Heather, send me an email at info@laurettelynn.com and I'll send you some resources.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Sure. Have a good night.
Bye.
Okay, and Laurette, we still have you?
Yeah.
I'm great. Skype is so reliable.
I am not leaving, Brett.
Well, we've got just a couple minutes left, and I think that one of the really important messages that's delivered towards the end of this book is that parents can do this authentic, natural education at home. And I think what's so easy to talk yourself out of in this respect is I can't do school. And you have a great line in the book, only school can do school, right?
Yeah.
And, we talk about young kids being able to start businesses. We did a show back in August where one of the stories that we covered was a boy tried to start a hot dog cart to support his family, and the city shut it down. At the behest of the local restaurant businesses. And these sad stories, they might be somewhat anecdotal, and certainly there's plenty of agorist roots around, complying with all these arbitrary edicts. But yeah, these opportunities do exist, but people have to understand that what they are trying to do with their own families, with their own children, is something very, very distinct from this other institution where you need certificates and you need $17,000 a year for some reason, to make an education, quote unquote, happen. That's not the case, and people really need to get themselves out of that box. Only school can do school. Only the state can do the state, and the state is going to continue these crackdowns on hot dog cart boy, and the state is going to go until the state collapses on itself. But, parents really need to counter that the best they can in every way, every day.
Yep. The whole second half of my book pretty much deals with these questions, these common questions that are brought up. What about socialization? What about the real world? There's an entire chapter on socialization. And I do say that don't try to homeschool because you can't. You cannot bring school home into your house, and you don't want to anyway.
Exactly. So one more time, the book is Don't Do Drugs, Stay Out of School. And you said that the best way to track this down is at laurettelynn.com, which people watching the stream can see that website right up on their screen. They can also see a cover of the book, which is that old notebook, the school journal.
Yeah.
Ugh. But very effective as the cover of the book.
And the 10% off discount for School Sucks listeners is SSP.
Excellent. That's great. And like this is like the Lark and Rose show that we did. Laura, are you familiar with Lark and Rose?
Oh yeah, my husband's spoken to him several times.
So
sure. I haven't myself, but my husband has. Yeah.
He's got a very unintimidating, compact, user-friendly book called The Most Dangerous Superstition, which is a wonderful introduction to some of these ideas about authority and the state. And this book seems to be very similar type of presentation focused on the schools and what education really is. And I recommend it to anybody who has found themselves in numerous frustrating conversations with parents who are trying, but are so stuck in that, that box of conformity and compliance, and they say, I can't. And I think you'd agree that one of the most effective prospects, or the most promising prospects for a book like this, is parents who haven't become dependent on the schooling system yet.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm getting positive feedback from parents that are wanting to pull their kids out of school because they know that their children aren't thriving and they just needed that little extra boost of confidence. But I'm also, most buyers are buying it because they haven't entered into the school system yet, and they just need somebody to back them up and say, don't do it, don't go. Also, Brett, and this is interesting, I've had a lot of feedback, more than I would have expected, from teenagers that have bought the book for themselves, read it, and used the information in it to communicate with their parents, to try to convince their parents why school is an unhealthy environment for them, especially the whole bullying issue that is being addressed in a lot of the schools in a very wrong way, in my opinion. They are 12, 13, 14 years old, 16 years old, buying the book, writing to me and saying that it opened up communication dialogue with their parents, which is fantastic. Because that's the whole idea. We have to communicate. We have to learn to communicate with our children and children with parents. And if it's opening up dialogue, whether or not the parents are going for it, I don't know, because they have yet to write back to me and respond to me. So we'll see. But just the fact that they are using it to open up reasonable dialogue with their parents, I was shocked by that. I didn't know that teenagers would buy in the book, but I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was great.
Yeah, that's a great story. I'm happy to hear that, because that's a very difficult thing for somebody to even think about doing as a teenager. So it's great to hear that it has that utility. Laurette, thank you so much for being our guest tonight. One more time, laurettelynn.com. And we'll do this again in the future. We've done it several times in the past. It's always very enjoyable.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you and have a good night. Everybody who is listening to us, hang on. We'll come back in 10 minutes or so. We'll do an After School Suck special. We got Brian Hagan from Fajita Fun Time joining us. So, give us a few to reset, and we will be back with a little more show. Thank you for listening, and take care.